Andrea, and I'm your chair for this session on Coaching If You Can, Changing Our Identity from Individual Coach to a National Coaching Team, with Sarah Graham and Ray Glynn, who are both Agile coaches in Workday. We'll have questions and answers in the end, so please type your questions in the Q&A box. So, Sarah, Ray, over to you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our afternoon discussion today. We hugely appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. Hope you're enjoying the conference so far. It's Friday afternoon, right? So we've got absolutely nothing to be sad about. We're nearly there to the weekend. So thanks for joining myself and Sarah. Sarah, would you start presenting, please? We'll get the slides in front of you guys.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So today what we're going to discuss is, as Andrea nicely teed us up, Coach Me If You Can, changing our identity from an individual coach to an awesome coaching team. And yeah, I suppose this we've had a lot of change. This originally it would have been around November last year when we submitted this talk, and then we were planning to do it for April. Obviously, the conference got rescheduled. And yeah, who could have predicted a global pandemic, right? So the world has had to deal with change, and ourselves included, right? As a coaching team, we've had to inspect and adapt over the last kind of 8 months. One of the questions we would have been asked a lot previously would have been, well, how would you do some of this coaching remotely or virtually? And so we've kind of had to step up to that challenge and adapt. And we're going to talk through some of that today and share some of that with you guys as well. Okay, Sarah, would you mind scooting on the slide? Thank you. Who are we? So we're a small team of coaches based out of Workday in Dublin, and we kind of support the product teams. I know we've had some other coaches as well too from Workday who've been presenting, Maria and David Parker yesterday. So Workday is quite a large organization. Primarily on the team that we have is David Denham, Sarah, and myself. And it'll only be Sarah and I speaking today. David is off running this conference on waterfall somewhere. He's not. He's obviously one of the curators of this conference, ALI2020. He's been off this week. He's been highly stressed, and but he's a key contributor to our team as well too. And I know he is dearly missed, and we'd love to have him speaking with us. And so thanks for that, David. David's been a member of the team now for over a year and a half, and it was him actually kind of coming on board with myself and Sarah that prompted us to try some of the things that we're going to talk about in today's talk as well too. So that was just to bear that in mind. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. So my name is Sarah Graham. I've been working in Workday now for the last 3 years. I've been working with Ray for all that time, and yes, David's joined the team in the last year and a half. So it's been great to work as a team of Agile coaches. Previous to that, I'd worked as a coach in Aviva, and yeah, I've been working in software the last 20 years. In all variety of roles, but mainly in quality. And it's kind of in the last 5 to 6 years where I've switched my attention to Agile, very passionate about it, and really looking forward to doing this presentation for you guys. So I'll pass you back to Ray.
Thank you, Sarah. And yeah, Ray Glynn is my name. So I've been similar to Sarah in Workday now just over 3 years. Prior to that, I was in Hewlett Packard Enterprise in Galway for a long time. Shout out to anyone from Hewlett Packard that's attending. Good to see you guys. And I was an Agile coach, Scrum Master initially, and then Agile coach in there as well. Similar to Sarah, has been in when I started working in the software industry, I worked on the Y2K bug, so that'll give you guys an idea of how long I'm kicking around. And yeah, I'm the kind of manager of this team, so I've been the people manager for the two guys there for a while, and we formed this kind of small coaching team for Workday in Dublin. And Sarah, if you scoot on the slide, thank you. So to talk about Workday, if you're not familiar with it, Workday is an enterprise software system that really helps businesses run their businesses, right? So it has a suite of products, primarily in like the HR, human resources space, talent, recruitment, learning, finances, payroll. So also it has a suite of different products that cater for internal business needs. We're a relatively new company, been around just over 10 years, based out of Pleasanton in California, and we've got offices all over the world, but the next biggest site is in Dublin. So we're based in Smithfield and King's Inn. We're we've got product teams, infrastructure teams, deployment teams, support teams, sales teams. The whole shebang is based out in Dublin. Culturally, very, very strong. We've featured in the best place to work or best workplace in Ireland over the last number of years. For 2020, we were placed second in the large category, and yeah, it's a fantastic. I know, speaking from experience, as Sarah will too, that it's a fantastic office with a really good vibe. And obviously, just like everyone else, since March, everyone has been working from home, and we've had some people in and out of the office, and our goal is to try to move people back in. But primarily, everyone has been working remotely since the global pandemic started, and we've had to deal with that challenge and respond and try to keep the culture strong during that as well too. So, Sarah, if you'd move on. So yeah, so just to give you a highlight then in terms of what we're going to talk about today. So Sarah's going to kind of talk through what is Agile coaching and what it means to us. Then we're going to go through a couple of slides around like how we apply some, or basically, how we work as a team, right? So a lot of things new that we tried out and we experimented with, and we're going to share that with you guys. And then we're going to leave a little bit of time at the end for questions and answers. And if you do have any questions or answers, please enter them into the portal as we go, and we will endeavor to get to them. Thank you. Over to you, Sarah.
Cool, thanks, Ray. So usually we like to make our sessions as interactive as possible. It's a little bit more challenging at the moment. We've just put a poll in the app there. I've noticed some people have already answered, which is great. But if you could take a moment, and what we really want to get is like, what's your experience with Agile coaches? Is it none? Is it external coach or consultant? Is it internal coaches, or is it a team of coaches? So we'll just give you a few seconds to do that. Okay.
So Sarah, it looks like the internal coach is just about winning over an external coach or consultant, but it's very close, 35 to 33%. We've got about 13% of people that have no experience with Agile coaches, which is interesting, and then less than 20% on it with a team of coaches.
Cool. Well, I'm hoping the people who have answered from a team of coaches, it could be from actually Workday as well. So if you are, thanks for joining as well. You probably see a lot of us, so it's nice that you join our talk. So from that poll, we can see that sometimes, the coach, it can be a little bit of a lonely role, and sometimes it's seen as an outsider. Myself, Ray, and David, we've all worked as coaches in isolation before, and we wouldn't work as a team with anyone, bar communities of practice. And so sometimes you're this lone wolf who comes in, or you're a consultant that's been brought in externally, and a lot of people have varied kind of experiences with external and coaches and consultants. So what we found was difficult is that as a coach, it can be really hard to advocate the benefits of working in a team when you yourself are missing out on those benefits of working in a team. So when we joined Workday, not only were we really fortunate that we are internal Agile coaches, but we were really, really lucky to come together as a team. And so, as Ray was saying, our focus on our talk is about being an internal coach working as a team, and how that team-based approach has had the positive outcome for the teams which we have been coaching. So fundamentally, a lot of the time we get asked, and to be honest, mostly by my family who don't understand what I do, is what is Agile coaching? What do we do? And really fundamentally, we are there to facilitate change. And how do we facilitate change? Well, we do that through supporting, guiding, coaching, teaching, and mentoring. In our organization, we want to follow their vision. So in our organization, it's to deliver a transformative product loved by all. And basically, as coaches, we want to enable that. And to us, that's what defines what Agile coaches is. So when we got together as a team, the first thing that we wanted to align on was, well, what fills us with purpose? We talk to teams a lot about this, is what is their call to action? So as a coaching team, we decided, well, what is our team vision and how can we align on this? As I mentioned, the organization and the product area in Workday, which we are coaches in, is to deliver a transformative product loved by all. So we are there to support that vision. And how we do that? Well, we see it's we work with the teams. So we want to enable high performing teams so they can enable the organization's vision. And, with high performing teams, so, we've Ireland here who are sometimes a high performing team. Our goal is to enable that, and we want to effectively coach them to become high performing teams. And how would that work if myself, Ray, and David weren't a team ourselves? So when we think of all the teams in Workday, and we think about like the teams going into any sport, they generally have a back room of staff who help them. And us as a team of coaches, we're like the back room staff, and we're helping all the teams within Workday so that they become high performing teams. And we have to set the standards that we expect of the teams that we coach as well. So that was the big conversation we had initially when we came together. It was like, well, how might we be a team? This is a challenge to ourselves. And then we said, well, what are the questions that we ask of the teams every day? So how might we be a high performing team? What are the things we need to do to truly think as a team? So to be like Leo here, we said, well, we need to drink our own champagne. We need to work in that team-based manner. And we need to apply the same principles we're teaching teams and coaching them every day to work as high-performing teams. So I'm going to pass you over to Ray.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to apologise in advance now because in typical working from home fashion, the dog is barking at a delivery man, which is just perfect. So that's just bound to be expected. So cool. So yeah, essentially we wanted to apply some of the practices that we do with teams and ourselves, right? So how might we align on our behaviours? And so if you skip on the slides there, yeah, what we did was we generally start with core values. Most of you guys, if you're working for software companies or other companies, would have you work for organizations that have their values that are communicated and generally shared around the organization. And Workday is no different than that. As a software organization, it has 6 core values, and it tries to tread those core values through everything that we do in the office. And so we applied the same thing to us as a team. Why are values so important? Because they help form that core belief system of you as an individual, which it also tends to drive the behaviors that you have. So a simple exercise to do this is, again, get everyone to silent write on stickies out what the values are that are important to them. Then have the group come together, align around the ones that they agree on, usually prioritize those, and then have a discussion about what's important about that value. Where would we see examples of it? Where do we feel? Why are we so passionate about it? And these are some of the examples of some of the ones that we felt passionate about. And again, part of that, the key in this is whether you're doing it for another team or in your own team, is to just capture those discussions for people to share, have empathy for each other about what's important to them, right? And so in our conversations, we talked a lot about having fun, enjoying what we do, because obviously we're in work a lot of the time on day to day and during the week, right? So you want to be enjoying what you're doing, having a high trust environment, being honest with each other, showing high integrity, and kind of putting the customer first. And so based off that conversation, then if you move on the slides there, thank you. And you would go to build up some working agreements, right? So we would have a team alliance, and you can do this with your team or any team. Very, very simple. You have a conversation and you make explicit the kind of working agreements or the behaviors that the team exhibits to each other, how you show up and work every day. For us as a coaching team, when we did this, we talked through some of these and we aligned around, core protocols. I'll talk about them in a little bit. Having fun and staying aligned with what we're doing, so high communication all the time, trusting each other, showing respect, and learning and then sharing back that learnings with the team so that we're learning a lot from each other, enabling equal voice so that everyone has an opportunity. And then key, we hold each other accountable to this alliance, right? So we make this visible in our workspace. And if it's not working out or we're breaking it, we'll hold each other accountable to that. We'll question, hang on a second, that's not the right way to do it. And if it's just not working out at all, we'll have another session and change them, right? So it's a useful thing to do. We kind of have incorporated this into a mini workshop we do with new teams when they're starting off. I'm running one with a leadership team next week. Generally start with core values and team alliances, and then take it from there in terms of ways of working and stuff like that. So again, it's a good way for team members to build empathy and just get to know each other. So I mentioned there, we're going to talk about core protocols. The next slide. So yeah, we were introduced, myself and Sarah went on an Agile team coaching workshop there with Rafa. I think he's speaking on one of the days here a couple of years ago, and we learned loads. And this is one of the things we learned about, just core protocols. They're based off a set of work that Jim and Michelle McCarthy had, and there's a book, Core Protocols: A Guide to Greatness, Richard Kasparowski had, worth checking out, right? So I'm not going to go into all of them, but just call out a few here that we do use. So check-in is really key, right? So that's just a way of starting a meeting or a workshop where you get everyone to speak a little, give their name, where they're from, and kind of how they're feeling, right? And so it can be a little bit confrontational, how are you feeling? But it allows everybody to speak, allows everyone to become part of the meeting. We changed it up a little bit over the years. We've asked, fun facts, or, where's your favorite place to get lunch, what your favorite movie is, just so folks are sharing something that's kind of personal about themselves. And then it just allows people to focus in on the session. And what we've discovered is, particularly when working from home, is that, and I'm sure all you guys are working in Zoom meetings, may even be doing something else while you're listening to this now. Very, very easy to get distracted when you're on Zoom calls. So we use check-in protocol with all our Zoom meetings as well, to quick round the house. How's everyone doing? Are we all present for the meeting? Everyone in a good place? All right, let's kick off, right? Another one to call out there is the decider protocol as well too. That's kind of like fairly standard Roman vote. Go to the whole team. How do we feel? Do we feel we agree on this? Thumbs up for yes. If it's a thumbs down, you'd say, well, what would we do different? Again, a way to kind of get everybody's input and opinion. And these are simple protocols, but they help build really, really effective communication. And communication is super key, particularly when you're working remotely. You need to double down on that, right? The next thing there, Sarah, if you move on, thank you, is, equal voice. So Google ran that program there a number of years ago, where they identified the kind of attributes of a high-performing team, and one of them was being psychologically safe, being the key one. And equal voice is an aspect of that, allowing everybody have the opportunity to speak and to contribute their experience and opinions. And the core protocols help with defining some of that. And it's the same thing. Equal voice is something that we were passionate about as a team, and we wanted to make sure everyone contributed as a coaching team into what it is that we were doing. So the same, we strive for that, and we try to lead by example with the teams that we were coaching as well too, in terms of, hey, this is something that is important and that you should focus on. And then to call out the last aspect on the next slide, of kind of what it is we did that we feel passionately about as a coaching team, was showing like our striving for unconditional positive regard. Sometimes easier said than done. And that's unconditional positive regard was basically came from, or was coined by the humanist psychologist Carl Rogers, and it was around basically the acceptance and support of a person regardless of what they say or do, right? Now that was kind of for client-centered therapy. When it comes to that in the workplace, the retrospective prime directive norm key is a really good example of that. So regardless of what we discover, we understand and truly believe that everyone is doing their best job, right? And, given what they knew at the time, the situation, their skills, their abilities. And so when we're running retrospectives or future perspectives, often with teams, we call that out. Hey, everyone is just trying to do their best. On the right-hand side here, you can see these working remotely COVID-19 principles. These were coined by one of the directors in Workday, Jonathan Lundberg, and I thought it was really good. We share this now with all our teams when we're running retrospectives or any kind of workshops, just to call out that, hey guys, we're working from home, but it's not a normal working from home, right? We're doing this within a global pandemic. So, things are going to be impacting people outside of work as well too. And just to be conscious of that, especially actually now that we're 8 months into that, right? It can be easy to forget, and there's a lot of anxiety in the world right now, and you just need to be mindful of that, particularly in the workplace as well. But try to make work a positive distraction, right? I think that's kind of super key. So they're kind of some of the things that we were passionate about in terms of our team alliances and how we get on as a team. And Sarah's going to talk about now how as a team we might achieve our vision.
Cool, thanks Ray for that. So yeah, as Ray said, we looked at our values, our behaviours, our working agreements, and there's things that we still use to this day as well, and they're very useful to have. And we'd recommend teams, regardless of what team you are, to start with your values. It's a good grounding. But then we thought, so back to our vision, which is also really important. How are we going to achieve our vision? We have this vision, that's great. Well, how are we going to achieve it? So in Workday, we use OKRs. For people who aren't familiar with them, they're objective key results. And And we found it was put a bit of manners on us so that we could follow our own vision, but we could also look at the OKRs in the area which we were coaching. And so that we could align our OKRs with them. And so that would help our teams, help us enable their goals. OKRs are great as a bit of structure for people not used to them. They're done every quarter. We also do a review at the end, so not that dissimilar to a sprint review. And you review how you're getting on with your key results and whether you've achieved them or not. You should always look to see that you'll get to around 80% of it as well. And also as well, at the end of it, you have a retrospective and you look back and see how you could improve. So we make sure as a coaching team, our OKRs align with the area we're coaching, and for that, then we can look at the strategy and then how they fall into line with the overall vision and mission of the organization. We also thought as well about, looking forward, what was our strategy and where were the different areas we wanted to target. So we have done full SWOT analysis, and then we can have an idea of what our roadmap in the future would be. Obviously, always open though, things change and we might need to pivot. So with this then, we are very aware, we're like, how do we hold ourselves accountable for these OKRs? Well, like every good team, we visualize everything. And this is our current Trello board that we use. So we'll have our OKRs on that. We have the objectives, key results, and then we break them down further. And then at least we know where all our work is at, what's in progress, what we're trying to do, and our backlog for the next quarter. So this is our current state. Obviously, as Ray mentioned, with the current pandemic, we have to go virtually for everything. But we did previously have this wonderful board in our work area in our building in Smithfield, and we had it there in an open space so everyone could see it. The reason we did that was to have full transparency, so anyone could walk by and anyone could see the work that we were working on. We used it as a pull system, so we had our kind of backlog of work and we'd pull in the work as we needed it. But we'd also have it color coded as well, and we generally paired up on most of these activities as well. And it gave us like an idea. We'd have our roadmap then for the next quarter, so we had a calendar view as well, so we knew what work was coming up. So after that, we said, well, the next important thing is like, how are we going to work with individuals and teams? So as coaches, this is really important. And what's really important is, first impressions do matter. I just realized when I was going through these slides earlier that we've a theme of Leo throughout. So when we're working with teams, it can be a challenge for like you as the coach and for them when you join them, first of all, because sometimes it feels like the teams might feel you're there to judge them, and you want to make it clear like what you're doing, what your role is there from the start. So we would always say, introduce yourself, introduce what your experience, and that you're there to help and support them. Set expectations as well, but also set expectation that it's fully confidential and safe zone as well. We'd always recommend is like seek permission to coach. Don't just rock up to a team and like, I'm going to coach you now, rocking up their stand up or any of their ceremonies. Seek permission. And if anyone is uncomfortable with being coached in a team, have a conversation with them to try and understand. Fundamentally, why we're doing this is to build up trust with teams and individuals before embarking on a coaching engagement. Myself, Ray and David are really lucky that we've been coaching in Workday, so we have built up relationship with a lot of people there in the teams, because it's definitely more of a challenge to build up those relationships over Zoom or virtually going forward. So one of the things we found, though, which has been helpful and which continues to help us, is to build up coaching contracts. So if anyone's being professionally coached, generally this is the norm. So it's very normal for a one-to-one. We've adapted it slightly, and as Ray mentioned, this comes from our, we were on a few coaching courses the start of 2019, and they really helped us. And it was like, okay, well, let's look at a team coaching contract going forward. It helps establish the expectation between the coach and the coachee, so that could be at an individual or team level. It also helps to, understand like how they want to receive feedback. Sometimes teams want to have feedback straight away, sometimes teams want it more formally or informally, or sometimes they want leadership involved as well. It also is like how often we should meet, what ceremony should we attend, how long should the time period be for this engagement. And again, fundamental is that it's a safe and confidential space. And we always seek permission from the teams if we're going to share anything with leadership. And it's very important to set these boundaries and agreements up front. It's been very useful. And again, we still use them even remotely now. So then we thought, one of the other challenges is, well, how are we going to collaborate as a team? Well, we've been really lucky that we have collaborated extensively on our workshops and our loads of facilitation and pair coaching. We created the content for our workshops together as a group. And usually when we embark on a coaching engagement, we might start, we always start as a pair, and then sometimes as well, we might engage with teams and come back and learn from each other. What we really find useful is learning from each other and getting feedback from each other as well. So obviously these photos are from a different time. One of the best parts of my job is the fact that we got to deliver lots of workshops and got to know lots of people in Workday as well, and they were great to do. We also get a number of requests from facilitation, and these facilitations can take from anything from team level, team kickoff meetings, building up team charter canvases, retrospective design sprints, vision setting, story mapping, goal setting. And again, we do this as a group. So we work together on creating the agenda, how we're going to facilitate it, what we're going to do. We've also done a lot of leadership level. There's a cultural summit that we did, leadership summits, OKR coaching and setting as well, product discovery workshops, prioritization. And finally, there's a picture of Ray there in an open space. So we had lots of great fun up until probably, March of this year. And then obviously things changed a great deal and COVID hit. I think as a team, we thought initially this wouldn't go on as long as it did, but we really had to adapt and change. We have locations all around Europe, and we have locations as well in the States, but generally we did all our coaching, all our workshops face to face. So really now our world has changed, and now this is our life. All our facilitation and workshops are done remotely. We've adapted all our workshops together again. And one thing to iterate what Ray was saying, core protocols, they've been really helpful when you're running workshops to do check-in. It's very difficult in Zoom to build up that relationship with people and to get people engaged. So if anything, to take away the core protocols and having a check-in and an icebreaker at the start and make it a bit of fun, take advantage of the Zoom backgrounds as well, cameras on. Again, we pair up for any of these workshops or any facilitation because, when you have Zoom, there's a lot of technical issues as well. So to have it all set up, to use your breakout rooms, use polling, use the chat. And it's been an experience, and we really had to adapt. We'd also recommend is that, use the tools that are available. I think Ray mentioned earlier, one of the questions we were always asked as a coaching team is, how do you do this remotely? And, because we probably didn't have as much of a challenge, even though we've remote offices, and we were thrown into it in March, and we've really adapted. And there's loads of collaboration tools out there as well. So take advantage of Jamboards. There's Google Docs, Google Sheets even. There's Miro. There's loads of different tools there. And even though it is a challenge, it can still be fun, and it can still, I think, we can still get the same outcomes as we had previously. And that's just to have the, shared understanding and learning opportunities for all our teams. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Ray.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. And so, basically then from a team perspective as well too, which is kind of somewhat different to being an individual coach in an organization. And we kind of asked ourselves too, how might we grow as a coaching team? And so what we did is, obviously Sarah mentioned earlier that we look at the strategy at various different things. So obviously we look at the organizational strategy, but we also did our own strategy sessions as well too, particularly around any kind of change initiatives that we were doing. And as a team then, kind of every 6 months we do a skills analysis. So we take the Agile coaching competency framework like this. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with that. make it a bit of a matrix, rate it 1 to 10, where we felt each of us was strong in these areas, where we felt we needed improvement. And then based off that, then we'd look overall holistically at our small team and go, right, what do we need to invest in from a development plan perspective for ourselves? And what do we need to invest in that's going to help enable the strategy that we're driving towards? Now, this is kind of standard talent or development planning within team-based stuff, but just to call it out that we just made it different from a coaching perspective, and we stick to that, and we use that to build our own career growth as well as to strengthen up the team. And then if you move on then, Sarah, yeah, as Sarah called out then, one of those key things of development is kind of like, yeah, how we learn and grow and apply different things. And as a team, particularly as a team of coaches, it's quite new, quite different, and we can experiment. We can experiment on lots of different things. And we just got into that culture of learning, the culture of experimentation, that kind of driving improvement. And if you scoot on the slide, Sarah, we just built that around very, very simple framework. Well, actually, before that, obviously be the change you want to see in the world. So we want to like lead by example. And in order to do that, again, like multiple continuous improvement frameworks out there. And this is just one that we use. And I'm sure there's probably others that are getting called out in the conference like this. There certainly was last year and prior. And so take an experimental approach. What do we do? It's very simple. We just have this on one of our whiteboards, or now we have it in Trello. What are we trying to achieve? What's the experiment? Who's going to own it? When will we do it? And how do we measure its success, right? How do we know that it's done? And that's just a simple way of keeping us honest as a team about what it is that we're trying. And I suppose over the last kind of number of years, we've tried loads of different things. So the coaching contract there that Sarah mentioned, that was, you know, upon our experiences of, you know, just being asked to join a team session, come into a team refinement session. And then suddenly you're in there and the team is looking at you and you're going, what are you doing here, you know? And we said, right, how can we be more explicit with the team, transparent about what it is that we're doing, and just help to build that trust? That was an experiment that we tried out. We learned from each other that it worked well. We also tried lots of things that didn't work so well as well too. And they're usually the ones that we learn more from. So we captured our experiments, made them visual, and then we learned from them and we talked about them. And a lot of stuff from development or training, we just incorporated it into what we did, right? And so that's worked really well for us. And we've tried loads of different things, from liberating structures, competency framework, like we called out there, coaching contracts, lots of different facilitation techniques. And then even just in simple one-to-one coaching time where you're just offering support to an individual. And we would just talk about what our approaches were, how we were from a when we adopted that coaching stance with individuals. We worked with each other on that as well too, and improving how we were as coaches. And so in synopsis, if I'm correct, yes. So basically, and this applies to kind of a lot of this would apply to any team, but start with a team vision, right? Super key. You need to know where you're going. Really, really important. So have a goal for yourself. And then, you know, unless you write it down and set it out, it's still just a dream, right? So align around where it is that you're going. Set out your values and working agreements. I think someone called out themselves, how often would you revisit that? That's a really good question. It depends on, you know, if the team is performing and they're living them and it's fine, you probably don't need to revisit them that often. If someone new joins the team, you may want to come up, call it out and start it again. Or if the team is starting to show dysfunction, that can happen as well too, right, over time, depending on how you're working, it's a good time to revisit. It's entirely up to you guys. It's different for every team. Define your strategy and use OKRs to help align. Now, OKRs are just one kind of way of working structure, right? It's just something that's worked well for us. We did initially try to do lower level Kanban, sprint, but you know, we found that the quarterly structure around OKRs helped us just with the number of requests that we're getting and different things we were doing. But key just as a coaching team was us really spending the time to strategize about what we were doing and making sure that we're having an impact. That worked well for the organization as well too, because we can share that back with leadership when they would ask, hey, what are you guys doing, right? We're able to say definitively, this is what we're working on. This is what is helping you guys. Visualize the work, always super key. If David was here, he'd be repeating that. Visualize the work, make it visual, make it transparent, makes things a hell of a lot easier. When it comes to building trust, introduce yourself, consider a coaching contract if you're new to this game. Collaborate, so learn from each other, pair, coach, pair, facilitate where possible. It's always easier with someone else, just like we're delivering this as a pair, and we'd be doing it as three of us if David was here as well too. Visualize our skills, so again, to work on what areas you need to improve on and actively go after that. and then experiment, try different things, right? Learn from it. Some stuff won't work, some stuff will. And just like this talk, right? It was an experiment. Initially, we said, hey, let's try it out. Let's capture some of the things and let's learn from it. And that's what we've done. Thank you very much for your time today. We hugely appreciate it. And yeah, if you've any questions, let's pass it back to Andrea.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thank you very much, Ray and Sarah. It was very enlightening, at least for me. I learned a lot about what Agile coaches do and how they do it. And yeah, we have a couple of questions here. I'm going to read the first one, okay? From Ifa. What do you think qualifies someone to call themselves an Agile coach? I'm seeing a lot of proliferation of people self-identifying themselves as Agile coaches with extremely limited experience and no qualification.
Wow. Can I tell you, Aoife, question of the conference, that's a brilliant question. God, it's a real challenge as well, because to speak frankly as well, we obviously interview a lot of coaches, and yeah, we probably see the same as well. Like, and it's then you're thinking of yourself, you're like, oh, the imposter syndrome sneaks in, and you're like, God, should I be calling myself that? I'm going to start, Ray. I'd say sometimes I think it's about experience as well. What benefits myself, Dave and Ray, and not just because we're really old. We probably got like 50 to 60 years experience between the three of us in software, in delivering software projects in all kinds of industry as well. We've all went on the journey through being Scrum Master. We felt we've kind of, done that. And I'm always a little bit suspicious of Agile coaches, and I'll be really honest, who haven't had that experience as Scrum Masters as well, to be at the cold face and to be at the cold face of delivery anyway, because at the end of the day, we're trying to deliver value for our customers, and hopefully having the teams having the crack along the way. There is even a number of qualifications. Myself and Ray have done our team Agile and enterprise level, but you really have to it's more your experience that's going to help. And we're constantly learning. I'm 3 years in Workday, but my goodness, I'm totally different coach than I was 3 years ago. And I think mainly that's from the mentorship and guidance I've had from Ray and David as well, and learning off my colleagues. So yeah, I know it. And I'm not sure if I'm answering you, but I'm hoping experience can help you there.
Yeah, to add to what Sarah's added there, one of the things that certainly when I joined Workday, Enda Dowling, who hired me in, said, look, bring you in here. We need to show value in this program that we're doing. And so we got to constantly answer that question. How are we getting results in what it is that we're doing? So that's always a question that I'd ask, is how do you get results? I understand entirely that as a coach, sometimes it's all about the team getting results, and that is correct. That's what you're there to do. But you also need to be able to show your part in that, not necessarily from giving a directive perspective, but to be just able to tell that story about, look, this is how I engage with the teams. This is what they learned from, this is what I was able to do with them, and this is the positive outcome. Anyone that's in, generally that I've met in leadership positions, certainly in Workday and other organizations, shows what you're going to do for me, if you're going to be an integral part of the team or not. And I think from a pragmatic kind of perspective, that's what you should strive for as a coach as well too.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from David. As a coaching team, how do you make up for the reduced face-to-face part of communication and body language now that we are working from home? New challenge.
So Ray, I can start. A lot of Zoom, unfortunately. So, and if David was here as well, Ray understands it as well, like we're on Zoom most of the time. Yeah, and you're not getting that full kind of reading people and seeing their body language and the eye contact as well. That's why we'd always say have your cameras on. David, I think the benefit that we had, I think I mentioned it, was that we had built up a lot of relationships. We've over 40 teams. We'd coached them all before we went into lockdown. I'm really grateful that we had that time to build up the relationship with people. It'd be very challenging to start that now. So yeah, we still do a lot of one-to-one, still very interactive, and all our sessions are quite interactive, even though they're over Zoom. And yeah, encourage definitely cameras on, and yeah, to see that engagement. Ray, I don't know whether you have anything else to add there.
Thanks for the question, David. If we were in person, we'd be going for a pint together.
Ray's paying.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Look, sorry, our session is at the end. We don't have any time for more questions, but you can reach Sarah and Ray in the meeting hub here in the platform, or you can look for them in the social medias, okay, to answer the rest of your questions. And just a reminder, all the sessions are being recorded, and they are going to be released, available from November 3rd, okay?
Thanks,
So that's
Andrea.
it. Thank you, everyone.
Andrea, can I just say one last thing? Just thank you to you. Thank you to all the organisers as well. They've done a stellar job. It's been amazing. And myself and Ray will answer these questions on the hub as well. But reach out to any of us if you want a further chat. We love talking about this.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.